Greetings, it's John G. Sutton. Tales from the jail. Thank you very much for your comments here. Some people have been making casting observations about my moustache. This is my tribute to Mr. Pastry. I don't know if you remember Mr. Pastry from the 1950s. Probably you won't. But then again, I'm from the 1940s myself. Hard to believe, isn't it? In fact, I celebrated my 73rd birthday last weekend. Yeah, and my 52nd wedding anniversary. That's why I've been away, you see. Anyway, I'm going to talk today a little bit about the abuse of younger prisoners, which is always a fear, you know, when you first time you're going into prison, that you're going to be, shall we say, buggered, yeah? literally buggered, yeah, by people like Mr. Paul Sykes. And he teamed up with a guy in Strangeways when he was there called, well, I'll give you his initials, DS. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, he's a bit of a drugs dealer, extremely rich man, or was, and he quite simply used his position to obtain a favourable location in Strangeways so that he could get his hands on the young boys in the YP wing. I put a stop to that by moving him from the YP wing, because he was about 33 at the time, yeah, and relocating him in the main prison. He didn't like that, and neither did the principal officer that put him there in the first place. I've spoke to you about this before. But his mate there was Paul Sykes. Between them, they seemed to have kind of a thing going, you know, where they would bully the younger inmates. And from the reports that I got from them, you know, they were being coerced into acts of sexual gratification. I believe that Paul Sykes used to get a copy of page 3 off from the Sun newspaper when they were having them little pictures up, something like Samantha Fox with her tits hanging out, you know. They used to rip the page out of the Sun newspaper and stick it onto the back of one of these younger prisoners, and then coerce them into accepting the treatment, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, time passes. I dealt with one young man there I don't think it was Paul Sykes that did it, I'm sure it wasn't, but this young man had been forcibly sodomized by his cellmate. And I was the hospital officer, and he came down to report this, and he was subsequently taken to hospital. Not the hospital in Strangeways, but the hospital at Salford Royal Hospital is what we used. And they treated him there. His rectum was very badly ripped. Yeah, seriously, that was a big problem. But he told me what he was forced to do. The inmate held him down and forcibly entered him, and then made him defecate into a newspaper on the floor to supposedly get rid of any DNA evidence that was there. Yeah, so that kind of thing goes on. I mean, and most inmates will not complain. I have seen people on here saying, well, if this is the case, because some people kind of idolize Paul Sykes, you know, saying, oh, he was a tough guy, you wouldn't have said that to his face. Well, when I first met Paul Sykes, I couldn't say it to his face because he was face down on the floor with a couple of screws holding him down while I was injecting his ass with a big, that's into the cheek, by the way, the upper outer quadrant of the right rect cheek, yeah, of his backside, gluteus maximus, yeah, which is not a Roman soldier, by the way, it's your backside. Yeah, and so that's the first. I couldn't say it to his face, but after that he was fairly well doctored up in Strangeways, and he kind of behaved himself, you know. But Paul Sykes apart, it was amazing the inmates that were involved in this kind of activity, which you wouldn't believe. I mean, I believe they called it gay for the stay. You know, they were just enjoying themselves while they were inside, and when they're out, you know, they would be dead straight. But in prison, I mean, the problems that you've got, of course, with these are alpha males. You know, these are big, aggressive, muscled men, and they've got a lot of energy, a lot of power, and they indulge this by seeking out vulnerable suspects to forcibly require them to entertain them. Yeah, and I believe, well, from what I was told at Wormwood Scrubs, that the going rate for somebody to actually perform fellatio upon you, that, by the way, for all those who are not familiar with the term, it means getting your todger sucked, you know. Yeah. Todger is Lancashire vernacular for a willy, by the way. Seriously, a quarter of an ounce by it was then. I mean, I expect they don't have tobacco in prisons now. They have these vapes, don't they? I stopped smoking 47 years ago, and I've had a cigarette since. Do you know, at Strangeways and at the Scrubs, grown men, officers who were hooked on smoking, they'd go and stand in the recess in the toilets like 11-year-old kids smoking fags. Watch out for the principal officer, you know, watch out, you know, watch out. You know, and it said to me, watch out, while I was going to have a fag. I thought, I'm not playing this, you know. I'm an adult. I'm not going to indulge in that kind of nonsense. So I completely and utterly gave up. And I've never had a cigarette since. I had to go cold turkey. There was no patches in them days, no vapes, nothing. No nicotine chewing gum. The only thing I could chew when I was in desperate need of a cigarette, because you get hooked, you know. I was hooked. 40 Benson and Edges a day. Yeah, believe me, that was powerful stuff. Coffin nails, them Benson and Edges. So anyway, managed to quit. Yeah, so anyway, that's what happens with the inmates. And as I say, people who are idolising Paul Sykes for being a big tough guy. Of course he was a big guy. I mean, he was 6'4", about 16 stone, athletically built, you know, kept himself fit. I mean, he had all the equipment, didn't he? Yeah. But it didn't make him a decent man, because I believe he was a terrible bully. And people who are using their size and force to actually intimidate and sexually abuse young prisoners, that's not something to be admired. That's something to be dealt with, which in my instance is exactly what would happen, as I did with a man called DS, and that was not particularly well greeted by the other staff, because I don't know if he was bunging them money or what, but certainly they seemed quite perturbed when I relocated him into the main part of the prison, and he looked absolutely gobsmacked. You know, you can't do this. Oh, yes, I can, and I am doing. And the principal officer who put him in there onto the YP wing, which was against the 1953 Prison Act, by the way. The principal officer that put him there said to me, you can't do this. I've told him he's my cleaner on here. He's in charge of all the landings. He's cleaning them all up. I said, no, he's not. He's an adult, and it's an offence under the 1953 Prison Act to locate anybody over the age of 21 in a young person's prison location. So he's moving into the main part of the prison. Said, unless you want to rewrite this Act of Parliament, which I don't think you do, and when I finish moving in, I'm going to put a paper into the governor to tell him exactly what I've done and who is involved, and that will be you. I was fairly safe, you know, at the time. I mean, I know people say, well, how can you stay cool when you're under that kind of pressure? I didn't give a flying one, mate. I didn't. if it's written down, if that's the law, that's it. And my brother was in the CID in the same area as Strangeways. He was a detective sergeant at the time. So I could always ring Martin up and say, I need these people arrested. And hey, Al would have done it too. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying these strange tales. I'm going to now sing you a song. I'm going to sing a song today, so I better warn you while I'm tired. Ring the ding dong donger. Yep, it's the Song Dinger. I'm not sure if I can do this one, but I think it's quite amusing. It's one of my favourite George Formby songs. It's my granddad's flannelette nightshirt. Now in our family we've got a heirloom. They handed it to me a year ago. It's been in our possession since Grandad was a lad. I'll tell you what it is and then you'll know. It's my Grandad's flannelette nightshirt. In it I was christened one day. Down at the church they were in a whirl. No one seemed to know if I were boy or girl. They had one or two, and they were in a mess. But it's all right, the preacher said, right, Kurt. I've been and had a quiz. I found out what it is. By his granddad's flannelette shirt, lordy lordy. His granddad's flannelette shirt. In me granddad's flannelette nightshirt. I got married one day in the train. My bride gave a shout. What is that you're pulling out? I said, it's old-fashioned and it's tattered and torn, but I brought it on me honeymooning girt. She said, what is it, dear? I whispered in her ear, it's me granddad's flannelette shirt. Lordy, lordy, my granddad's flannelette shirt. The other day, I got an invitation to go and join a nudist colony. And as the life is healthy and in the open air, I trotted off as happy as can be. With me granddad's flannelette nightshirt, I walked up to the door. Someone said, now don't make a fuss. Just take off your clothes and you'll be like us. I was bashful, so I stayed by myself. For with the girls I didn't want to flirt. But when I fell asleep, they all came and had a peep at my grandad's flannelette shirt. Lordy, lordy, my grandad's flannelette shirt. In 1810, grandfather joined the army to fight Napoleon across the sea. You've heard about the battle they had at Waterloo, but what was it that brought us victory? Why, me grandad's flannelette nightshirt, it saved old England that day. He shot down our colours and captured our flag. We're just not downhearted, it's a cert. For flying in the gale, everyone could see the tail of my grandad's flannelette shirt. Lordy, lordy, my grandad's flannelette shirt. It's turned out nice again, hasn't it? Makes you wonder. You know, he was the highest paid entertainer in Great Britain at one time. George Formby. He was actually from Wigan, you know. He started off being a jockey, and then he followed his father into vaudeville. He lived at Blackpool in a nice little big house at Blackpool. Apparently he was a bit of a womanizer, but his wife didn't like it. You know, she wouldn't, would she? Anyway, that's it for today. Tales from the jails. Hope you've seriously enjoyed this. Do like and subscribe, all the rest of it, you know, and we'll see you soon.